All right, guys, we're gonna get into a more serious topic. It always sucks to see that every now and then, like every year, we see a surge of shootings, right? Whether it's at a school or a market or at a park or just something wild and crazy. These people are shooting into open crowds, right? So we had another one of these situations in Atlanta where 8 people overall, including 6 women of Asian descent, were shot and killed by this shooter. His name is Robert Aaron. Was it? Yeah, Robert Aaron Long. So apparently, this guy was a customer at these spas. He suffered from sex addiction, according to his roommate and the church that he went to. So he was just constantly relapsing and going to these spas to do his thing. I guess he ended up doing this horrible tragedy. I don't know what would lead him to do it, but that's what happened. So yeah, Hector, what do you think, man?
Yeah, so obviously I'm deeply saddened by any bad news when you talk about people whose lives are taken when it seemingly feels like they had more time. It basically came down to the choice of somebody else, right? It didn't come down to, you know, um God's plan or destiny or anything like that. But um yes, I wish I had something more, you know, um, something more to say about the facts of the matter. But I just want to speak on out of my heart. Um, when I hear any tragedy happening, like especially a shooting, the first thing is never feeling for the victims and their families and friends. The first thing is thinking, of course, and that in itself is completely wrong to have that kind of mentality, but this is what living in America is, right? Like we've been down this road far too many times, and every time we go down it we talk about it like if some change is going to happen and nothing ends up happening, and we just kind of forget about it until the next one happens, and it did, right? And we'll talk about the next one
Mm-hmm.
in a short bit, but um yeah, nothing more to say other than what whatever, if there is going to be change done, it has to be now, and it has to be very aggressive, or else it's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
um and if that's going to happen, I mean, it's going to come down to getting into the politics of it, and it sucks that we have to politicize a person taking another person's life with a weapon. We have to just kind of wait it out, and people have to, these people in office have to go back and forth and debate it, what's the best choice in that. But again, like, if there's going to be anything to be done, it has to be swift and fast.
Yeah, definitely. Gia, what do you think before I get in?
Yeah, it's terrible, right? That we live in this situation in this country that there's so many mass shootings. I was going to ask why it seemed like mass shootings had stopped like for a while during the pandemic or last year, but I was just reading right now that actually 2020 was the deadliest gun violence year in decades. And but we hadn't heard about this, right? We didn't hear about this. I guess um why did we hear about the one from Colorado and the one from Atlanta? Or we're going to talk about the Colorado one, right? What is it about those two that we hear about? Maybe the size of the killings. It says that in 2020, gun violence killed nearly 20,000 Americans, which is right one of the deadliest. And so, like I'm trying to figure out what exactly
Well,
is
because
going
there's,
on.
I think because there's a difference between gun violence and mass shootings, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
gun violence could be any one person killing another person with a gun. That's not a mass shooting, right?
Right.
So these mass shootings are like big headlines, right? So
Hmm.
anytime somebody's like, "Oh, mass shooting," you want to know how many people were killed, how what kind of weapon it was with, and then that's what strikes all these debates. Nobody really cares about people killing each other with a pistol, right? Because that's not really the debate. We're never gonna have, I think, like 100% gun ban like that, where you can't even have a
Hmm.
pistol. So it's not even if we can't even get the AR situation handled,
Hmm.
well, there's no way we're gonna talk about oh, we should ban pistols too because people are dying from gun violence. Like, no, not gonna happen, right?
It's sort of related though, right? Like one is just an extreme version of the other, right? Like mass shooting is just an extreme version of gun violence.
Right.
And so then what's causing it? Like if there was a spike in 2020, the first thing that comes to mind is the like economic fallout of the pandemic, right? The anxiety that it caused, and that led to more violence, right? It makes sense.
For
And so
sure.
then what does that have to do what does that have to say about like mass shootings then? But we can talk about the next one, right?
Yeah, definitely. And as far as this one too, I wanted to bring up one thing, right? So that I see a lot of articles here, and as I'm scrolling through, and it says, mass shooting in Atlanta. Was it sex addiction or was it racism? Right. So we see all these hashtags for Asian hate, right? Stop Asian hate. There was these Asian women that were killed. So is it valid to say that this was like a targeted Asian hate violence thing? It's curious to me, right? Because like we're gonna talk about the next one, right? In Colorado, when we look at his name, we're gonna talk about a whole other thing, right? So, as far as Asian hate, I definitely understand that there is racism towards Asians, right? I grew up listening to music, actually, like Mike Shinoda, right, from Linkin Park. If you listen to the Fort Minor album, he has a song where he talks about um, during during the dropping the atomic bomb. Sorry, his grandparents were put in internment camps, right here in the United States, right. So that's definitely a thing that happened. So is it fair to say that this situation is enough to start hashtagging stop Asian hate everywhere? It's a kind of touchy question, and even to probably think about it, and probably I'm gonna get canceled just for saying that. So it was nice having a show, guys. But yeah, do you guys want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'll go. I think that the hashtag, is already circulating. It's just not catching any steam, for a lot of different reasons, right? Because it's not sort of like, maybe it's something that is not like hot in the news, right? It's not like a trend.
Mm-hmm.
But even though it's not a trend, like you said, it's been going on for a very long time, since World War II, right? Like you're talking about the internment camps where these Japanese Americans were being basically put in concentration camps, just because they were Japanese. In fact, even like non-Japanese were put into concentration camps, like Chinese, right? And other Asian descents that
Yeah,
were
whoever
not
looked
Japanese.
Asian,
Yeah,
like
yeah, whoever
you
looked
can
Asian.
think about how ignorant they were back then. Whoever looked fucking Asian was in there. Didn't matter where you were from.
Yeah, so like you also have people like Jeremy Lin, right, in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been for it, obviously, right? Like he's I think he's Chinese, right? Um,
I believe so.
and yeah, so he's always been, very active, and he used his platform as an NBA player, to bring attention to this, right? But it goes unseen, and it almost feels like it goes unheard,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because maybe I live in a heavily Asian populated community, right? And I hear that there's sometimes people that just come through town and just to harass like the residents, and I'm just hoping one day I just catch one of these guys, just or individuals, like just out there just with some ignorant stuff, to just kind of stop them and also defend our neighbors, because for the most part, like they're very peaceful people, right? Like they're like you and me, right? That if someone tells you something, they'll just like be like, okay, crazy guy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like these people that come, they somehow feel like they're superior, so they try to enforce their will. So again, like these are stories you don't hear about, right? But it is happening. So I am with you, bro. Like if the hashtag needs to start circulating, if we need to get canceled, I'm with it, bro. We did this for a purpose. This podcast was here for a reason. Maybe this is it to, push on the, like the hashtag for, for all Asians, and, get canceled for it. I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, and like the council comment was just me saying like pushing back, right? And me being like,
Yeah.
yo, like, is it justified to start doing all this hashtag Asian stuff, when something a singulated like issue happens, right? Because we haven't really seen something else like this happen recently, right? Where like, well, as far
Yeah.
as I know, right? But at the same time, when you spin it the way you're saying it, which sounds a lot better, thank you, Hector. We're kind of saying, it shouldn't take this. You should know from your fucking history that Asians are treated very shittily here in the United States. So when something like this happens, definitely keep in mind that, damn, these people are just trying to live in our country and, trying to work like any other immigrant that we know, right? And when something like this happens, like you got to think, like, dude, why are you attacking this, this culture or these hardworking people, when you got, sorry to say, people in fucking mansions that are, doing shady shit on the daily, and they're living high and mighty, and they're protected, and nothing ever happens to them, right? So as far as the gun issue, like you said, Hector, I don't think we're ever gonna do something about it until people who have money start getting shot.
Or like I also remember when was it? I think it was the Sandy Hook shooting, right? And these politicians got together, and I just in my head, this is just thought. I jokingly said, "Hey, like nothing's gonna happen unless somebody walks into the Capitol and starts shooting everyone up, and we have casualties. What happens then?
Mm-hmm.
Instant reform. I could almost guarantee it. I'm not putting this out there into the world so that it could happen. I don't hope it ever happens. That's not really what I'm about, and I'm not trying to say it. I'm just taking a hypothetical and then just letting my mind race off to the what if, like the most extreme circumstances that could happen for change. That will have to be it in my head, right?
I mean, it's not really that extreme, right? Because they stormed the Capitol.
Well, I can give you
Gio, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say I can give you an example where there was reform, like here in California, right? There's really strict gun laws, but that wasn't always the case. It wasn't until the Black Panthers started organizing and bringing like machine guns to the Capitol that then California was like, oh shit, we need to do something about guns, right? And so there's precedent for that kind of reform.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So
But-
when they, oh sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but just to I want to press back on that notion, because you have had non-black individuals go into government buildings or around government buildings with assault rifles and guns, and there is no reform, right? It's somehow only when like black people do it that it seems to be a problem, or
Yeah.
non-white people do it seems to be a problem.
It's funny that way, right?
Yeah.
Hey guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear some of the issues that you care about discussed on Discussion Lounge, go ahead and drop them in the comments section.